Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you here today. If you want to follow along, we will be starting in the 18th chapter of the book of Proverbs today. And as we move into this section of Proverbs, I came across an interesting description of the book of Proverbs. Talked about how in certain cases when someone passes away, will do an autopsy to figure out exactly what caused that person's death. And when you read Proverbs, Proverbs is repeatedly telling us that the path or the way of the wicked man or the foolish man is leading to his death, and that he will eventually reap that harvest. And so the author says that Proverbs could be looked at as the autopsy of a fool. And that as we study the foolish man, we see what caused his death. And this author lists several things. He says their friendships, their faith, or maybe their lack thereof, their finances, and then their words. Those things are what led to that. And in this chapter, we're going to see that particularly demonstrated to us. And we're going to be looking today in the first 8 verses at some of the things that show up in a foolish man's speech and some guidelines on avoiding those things. And we're encouraged to have purity, cleanliness in our speech that ultimately leads then to peace in our relationships and in our life. And what we see in this chapter is that really one of the key factors of all of that is the selfishness that a wicked man operates with. That it's all about him. And so as we look at this, we're going to see some of that. We're going to see that a wise man guards against those things, and a foolish man, his speech can cause him great difficulty. So here we go in verse 1. Through desire a man having separated himself seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom. A foolish man, again, he says he separates himself. He's only thinking about himself. He is unfriendly. They don't have any relationship with others out of jealousy, out of fear. Of losing somehow losing their position or something, and they give all kinds of excuses for why they do that. But what Solomon says is, he says that goes against all wisdom. When a person would act in such a way and really just disassociate himself, and it comes back to some of the other proverbs we talked about, where a wise man learns from others. And so a foolish man disassociates from others and therefore loses out on that option or that opportunity to gain wisdom from those around him. A fool hath no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. And so this proverb really kind of amplifies that thought of what I was just saying, that a foolish man rejects understanding, wisdom from others, just basically to hear their own self-talk, to hear their own opinions. When the wicked cometh, then cometh also contempt, and with ignominy reproach. Again, the wicked man just to put it plainly, he says causes trouble. The wicked man causes difficulty for himself and for others, for the group that he is associated in. As somebody said, everybody brightens the room, some when they enter it, some when they leave it. The wicked man, he brightens the room when he leaves it. Oftentimes in the church world, when people some who leave a church, the phrase that is used is a blessed subtraction, and that the removal of that person and their attitude and their interactions with others actually is a benefit for the group as a whole, to have them removed from it. Verse 4, the words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. A man's words he says, they have the potential to be a blessing. Contrast to what we've just read about the wicked man, a wise man, he says those words can be a blessing. They're a wellspring of wisdom, as a flowing brook. Flowing brook represents life. That a wise man's words are a benefit instead of a hindrance. It is not good to accept the person of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. And what this verse is saying to us is that, here there's two different examples given. One is showing partiality. It's not good to accept the person of the wicked, to show favoritism towards the wicked. You've probably seen something like that in the workplace, or maybe even in church, where it seems like sometimes the wicked get the attention and everybody just kind of goes along with them. And to let them, it's just easier to get along with them if you just let them have their way. And then the second problem, he says, is don't overthrow the righteous in judgment. Don't condemn the righteous person. Sometimes in the church, we will go along with the wicked man just to get him to be quiet, just to get him to quit causing trouble. But what happens is it never works that way. They just get worse. Verse 6: a fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. He's talking about how a wicked person's words cause what the Bible calls here contention or trouble. And his mouth calleth for strokes, means it's saying that they're hateful words. They're calling for people to quarrel, people to fight, to argue. They're causing grief and trouble, and again, many times that gets even gets violent. It says, the wicked person's words, he says, are trouble. Verse 7: a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. As I read that, one of the things that I see him saying is give him time. We've heard that saying, give a man enough rope and he'll hang himself. And Solomon here is saying, if you just let the wicked man talk, eventually his own words will destroy him. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. The wicked man's going to gossip. He's going to slander. That corruption's going to come out in his speech. The wise man doesn't buy what he's selling. The wise man knows not to that the fool's mouth is destruction, and his lips are the snare of a soul. His talebearer is wounds, and they go to the innermost parts of the belly. The foolish man, don't get tangled up with him. Is simply the basic way of saying that. Don't get tangled up in his words, because his words will just destroy you along with him. Wow, what a warning. Some really strong words here from Solomon about the danger and the power even of our words, of our speech. And as I read that and trying to make a positive out of it, one of the things I think about is if wicked words have this kind of power and can do this kind of damage, what can godly, wise words, what can they accomplish? If wicked words can do that kind of destruction, how good, how sweet, how blessed are wise, godly words. And I think that speaks for itself then that what we need to be striving for in our life every day is that our speech builds up and helps others, and that we don't allow ourselves to be tangled up and influenced in the words of a talebearer. Have a good day. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.